Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
A bush versus the military. Be in the Georgian military. Watch duty with a buddy in the middle of a semi-wooded area near the Russian border and Abkhazian state that is also a mountain. I have the high ground, have shitty AK-74. Middle of the night, just chatting with my buddy. Hear a sound coming like buzzing and gargling. Look down from the hill. Nothing there, or whatever that thing was, is hiding behind a tree. Ask the buddy what it might be. He thinks it is an animal, but we don't care. We have guns. See something moving. It is a bush. The bush is moving towards us. Not a ghillie suit, a big bush like around 4 meters. We warn it. We shoot a warning shot in the ground and air. We are screaming at this point. We start to shoot the bush, nothing happens. When it got closer, I saw these sticks under it like it was using its branches to walk towards us. I had 57 bullets on me. After the first mag was gone, I ran back and so did my buddy. We are running to the base on a hilly area. Reach base, tells Sergeant what happened. After giving us a disappointed look, he goes outside with the both of us. The bush is still moving. Towards the base. I saw it. My buddy saw it. The fucking sergeant saw it. He thinks it is a ghillie suit. He shoots at it with better aim. Nothing. It still comes towards us slowly. Goes closer to the bush, he sees it. Confirms it is a moving bush. Tells us to go back to the base and get the others. 2 more people came out. 5 people are now watching the bush move. One guy says it is a new thing made by the Russians to mess with us. Go back to base and lock every building up. 2 guys are on guard. Sergeant is making a call and not getting believed. The bush stops right outside the base. Go inspect it. It has stopped moving. It is a normal bush now. It is now 6 o'clock. The sun is rising. Sergeant goes to look at the bush. Sees it is a normal bush. Fucking cuts the bush with a hatchet. He pours motor oil onto its stomp. Burns the bush. I get home. I write this post. I am scared of bushes now.
Would you rather have an AK-74 or an M4?
M4, but a flamethrower when it comes to bushes.
Just carry some flares or a flare gun.
This was the first time I saw something like that, so I didn't have flares on me because I didn't expect it. But the next time I'm getting some. Update. People came to the base to check what happened. They told us that the bush had moved and it was apparent from the soil and the roots. They told us to keep our mouths shut to not make the Georgian military look crazy or stupid.
Posting OC. Full disclosure, there is no payoff. I'm curious to see what anons think. First time ever posting on /x/. I live in a town of about 40,000. We're at a weird point where we're bustling with growth and rapidly expanding, but much of our area remains undeveloped. You'll be in businesses and residentials, then boom, it's the woods. Anyway, I just graduated college and moved here for my first big boy job. I moved into these apartments near the busiest area in town, but my building faces the woods, very close to the woods. The streetlights illuminate our buildings, but the black woods stare back. We had a bunch of vehicle break-ins with the cars parked near the woods, but as far as I know, nothing in any case was taken. Just smashed glass. These were multiple incidents, spread out over some time. This made me nervous, as my car is in the same segment of parking that the break-ins happened. So I got into the habit of peeking outside to check on my car at night. To be blunt, one night I saw a tree walking. Not full-sized, but also not a sapling. It stopped as if it knew I saw it right away encroaching, and simply stood there. It was so out of place. It was in this little cut where the woods stopped, but the street didn't quite begin. I stared for a long time, stunned, and it never moved. The next day it was gone. We haven't had vehicle break-ins since.
The trees on my property move in the night. I didn't know how else to title this except with what exactly is occurring. I obviously don't know what exactly is occurring, or else I wouldn't be posting this here. I'm not insane. At least I don't think I am. I'll start at the beginning. I've lived in upstate New York my whole life. I recently inherited a house in the mountains. I'd rather not disclose where exactly, but there's not much around me. It's not much at all, but it's nice. At least it was. until I started to get this feeling that something wasn't right. There's a bay window in my living room that looks into the backyard. I close the curtains every night and open them every morning, only it's not the same view each day. It took me longer than it should have to realize this. Out the window, there's an open field surrounded by woods. The house sits on a little less than an acre. I do my best to keep up with it. 3 trees stand tall in the field, but never in the same places. They're each in completely different spots every morning, with the ground seemingly not phased. I swear to God. I know there's walking sticks, but I've never heard of walking trees. So my first thought was to start taking a picture every morning. I don't know why. To track their movements, I guess, and to have physical proof, even though I knew for a fact. So I took one and went to compare it the next day. I opened the curtain and the trees were in the same spots as the day before for, I think, the first time since I moved in. I know. Convenient, right? Well, they haven't moved since, so I have no proof. It's like they knew. All I have is a photo of the field, which won't do much good. Still, I obsessively check every morning. I'm not afraid. I'm just weirded out, uneasy. I don't know what any of this means. I'm not sleeping as well, but besides that, it's not really infringing upon my life in any way. It's just strange. It's the strangest damn thing I've ever experienced. I live alone, and I haven't told anyone in my life out of fear of what they might think or say. So this is the first time this has left my head. I would rather not reveal my identity due to the nature of my work. I just wanted to share my story. Is there anyone out there who's experienced anything similar or might have some sort of explanation for this, please? Initially, I was a bit discouraged upon posting my story. The post began to receive replies immediately, but most of them were as I feared. A lot of jokes. Most were pretty predictable, but I did get a good laugh out of some of the more clever ones, and I just had no idea what a lot of comments were even referencing. However, I was hoping for answers. I guess that was wishful thinking, and I do realize how crazy this all sounds. I wouldn't be posting about it if I didn't. I've always been a fan of horror movies and stories, but it feels like I'm beginning to live one, and plenty of you think it is fiction. I wish. I can only hope that it doesn't escalate, and it's not looking like it will, thankfully. I'm still complexly perplexed, and it seems like many of you thought I wasn't even being serious. I mean, how could I misremember on which side of the yard a huge tree stands? Actually, I didn't realize just how crazy I sounded until I started to read the replies. I was even convinced to replace my carbon monoxide detector, and that's definitely not the problem. Though I'm not sure if there's a problem at all anymore. The trees have remained still. Not a whole lot has changed since my last post, which is kind of frustrating because I just want a straightforward answer. But I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate your suggestions and I am running with them. I figured I wouldn't post again, but I feel like I have to, especially since a few users did express interest, and some interesting topics were brought up that I would never have known about otherwise. Like I said, nothing unusual has happened since, but I haven't forgotten. How could I? Even when I'm not thinking about it every waking second of the day, I'm dreaming about it during the night. In fact, I've never had nightmares like the ones I've had since this began. This has been the most eventful thing to occur in my boring life in recent memory. So, it's been weighing on me. Naturally, when I came across a trail cam left in the garage by the previous owner, a relative of mine, I figured it wouldn't hurt to give something else a try. Some of you also suggested this. He was a hunter. I know nothing about hunting, but I figured it'd be worth a shot to set up the camera and see if it catches anything out of the ordinary. If the camera was ever used, then it was wiped. There was nothing on it when I found it. I have it positioned in front of my bay window. It's the best view of the property in its entirety, and each tree is in the frame. Honestly, I'd rather not post pictures of my property or anything that could potentially be traced back to me, but we'll see what happens. If I capture something truly incredible, I don't think I have much of a choice, but I can't even imagine such a scenario. By the way, I believe they're red oaks. They're beautiful, as long as they stay where they are. It's been so long since my last update, but there's a reason. Anyway, there's still been no changes in regard to the trees. They haven't moved again. But there is a development. I don't know if it's related, but it's just as weird. In my last post, I left off by telling you that I put up a trail cam and hoped to capture something. Well, did I ever? If you don't know how trail cams work, what they do is they snap a photo whenever movement is detected. The leaves swaying or a strong enough breeze can set it off, so you can't tell one picture from another for the most part, besides by night and day. I checked it the morning after I set it up. Turns out, I didn't set it up right because it didn't record a thing. I figured out how to use it, and on the second try I did it right. Still, I didn't find anything unusual in the photos, not even an animal. Same with the next night, and the next, and I forgot to check it the next. It became more and more irregular that I would check it, because it wasn't capturing anything besides the typical wildlife that began to pop in and out. I charged it once, but it faded further and further from my routine. I naturally moved on from it, distracted by my busy November. I figured it was a lost cause anyway, and I had more important priorities. I guess I was moving on from all this, despite the occasional nightmare. Until one particular day, I was mowing the lawn for the last time this year and putting things away for the winter. The camera caught my attention when I came to it. I figured, what the hell? One last look, and then I'll put it away. It was dead, so I took it in for a charge. While flipping through picture after picture, I saw something that stood out among the rest. I clicked past it at first. It was only in one picture. Someone, in the center of the frame. They were just standing there, in the dark of night, in the middle of the lawn, among the trees. You couldn't make out any details, just a silhouette facing towards or away from the camera. It was the creepiest damn thing I ever saw. I thought maybe it was just a lost hunter or something, but I don't know how the camera could have possibly only caught one photo of this person. There should be pictures of every step they took. But there's just the one, and in the next one, they're gone. Initially, this made me think this whole thing might just be someone playing a trick on me, but no one could pick up a tree and replant it without leaving any evidence behind, let alone 3. There's still something more at play, but I don't know if this is connected. I contacted the police. An officer came and took a look around. He didn't find anything suspicious and just suggested I put up no trespassing signs. He wasn't much help, but I don't know what else he could do. I didn't tell him about the trees. How the fuck could I? He didn't understand why I was so concerned. Maybe I shouldn't be, but I'm still not comfortable posting the photo. Call me paranoid, but my mind even wandered to the fact that I've been posting about this online and wondering if someone could have found me to further my paranoia.
Hey/X/here's my story. I come from Germany, so excuse me for any further mistakes in my vocabulary. In the woods at night with a friend and airsoft guns with 10 joules. It's about 11 p.m. in the night, and we're in the Black Forest in South Germany. Black Forest is famous for its darkness and huntings. Many legends, many spooky. On the way back home, still had to walk like 800 meters to get out of the forest, walking with a compass, hearing boars far away. We walk very silently, so we don't get the attention of other hunters like wolves or boars. They can easily stomp you in the ground. We hear a loud boom, like a big tree fell down somewhere. Another one, it's coming closer. We stop and watch and listen. Birds fly away from our position. Another boom and cracking noises of tree branches. See something moving far away, but can't make it out, too dark. We still look. Another boom, but it more sounded like a stomp of something far too big for this world. I get scared. My friend is also scared. Let's go, man. What the fuck? Another stomp, this time very close. We could feel it in the ground. We run like we're followed by angry hornets. Another stomp, another stomp. It's following us. We run faster. It's about 500 meters till the end of the forest. I look behind me and can't see shit. Stomp, 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 stomp. Look behind me again as we run across a small clearing. Holy shit. Mother, what is this dot? JPG. It's about 5-7 meters tall, long-legged, long-armed, looks like a walking tree and follows us. Run! I scream for my life, and we run. We ran out of the forest, ran across the hayfield. After 2 minutes, we stopped. We couldn't hear anything anymore. It was death silence. We talked about that afterwards, but we never had an idea what that was. What was it /X/? A pissed-off tree?
Inulpamahuida, the walking tree. This is a unique creature. Inulpamahuida is surreal and nearly sci-fi. It predates by over 2 centuries. Dan Milner's 1975 movie From Hell It Came, which starred a walking killer tree stump. Inulpamahuida is a mythical Mapuche monster tree. Its name means, in Mapudungun, the Mapuche language, mountain climber. Inulpa =sign to climb, and Mahuida =sign hill, and refers to the tree's clawed branches, which it uses to climb up the steep Patagonian mountains. It also lacks roots, hence its ability to move about. We can't imagine what tree originated this myth. Maybe it was born out of the fear provoked by the forests. Fear of the forests. Another element that had a great impact on the natives' superstitions was that none of them dared to venture into the dark Andean forests. They feared them and were more comfortable in the harsh environment of the Patagonian steppes. Beyond the occasional skirmish with the bellicose Mapuche, no Spaniards explored the Patagonian forests until Jesuit missionaries crossed the Andes from southern Chile into what is now Argentina in the mid-1600s. When they did, they encountered the natives living beyond the edge of the forests, but none living in them. Many explorers have confirmed the natives' aversion to the forests. 1. George Chaworth Musters, a Briton, who was the first European to travel in 1869 along the steppe between the Chilean settlement of Punta Arenas on the Strait of Magellan to the Argentine town of Carmen de Patagones on the Rio Negro. During this journey of 2.500 kilometers, 1,550 miles, with a group of Tehuelche, he noticed that they were reluctant to venture into the forests and only overcame their fear to hunt wild cattle at its edges. 2. Welsh explorer and colonizer Liud ap Iwan also noted this in 1893, writing about the deep Andes, where the Tehuelches never enter. 3. But the natives' fear was not a quirk, it had a clear reason: monsters. Explorer Clemente Onelli provided an explanation. The Indian has, like his entire race, repulsion towards the forest, because they believe that it is the home of adverse genies. 4. His point of view was shared by Patagonian pioneer Andreas Madsen, 1881 to 1965, who wrote that the Tehuelche Indians have a superstition against living in the mountains due to the Gualicho, or evil spirit. 5. Mrs. Bertha Kostler ILG, 1881 to 1965, a German folklorist who migrated to Patagonia in her 20s and lived there all her life compiling the native Mapuche's fables and traditions, stated that they held a great fear towards the forested mountains and did not want to go into them. The forest's appearance was very ominous. They felt exposed to great unknown dangers. 6. Further south, English Major Vernon Hesketh Pritchard mentioned that the Aonakank he had met at Lake Argentino never dare to enter these forested lands, and that they do not only never enter the Cordillera, but they even avoid the very surroundings of the mountains. It could be argued that the dark temperate forests awaken some deeply ingrained fear in the human mind. Northern European fairy tales exploit this fear, embodying it with witches, wolves, trolls, and ogres. It seems that we feel that the forests are not ours. They are an alien and wild place, the realm of the spirits. Forests are places to be avoided. But they were not alone. Even modern men, when viewing these lonely places, feel a cool chill running up their backs. Pritchard expressed it very well, describing the ominous feeling that the Andes provoked. When one looks at the foliage that extends far away, ridge after ridge, where the valleys and the slopes close upon each other, a feeling of darkness and mystery takes hold of the mind. It is within this context of forbidding gloomy forests and the apprehension that they stir in our minds, that we should review Patagonia's mythical and, yes, real creatures.
Texas in October. I have the day off school and both my parents are at work. Naturally, I'm sleeping in. But it's a gray and drizzly morning. That usually means strong winds. My room is towards the back of the house, and we have these big wooden wind chimes out there. They're clattering in the strong gusts of wind. Pretty annoying. All of a sudden, they begin to clatter rhythmically, like someone playing the bongos. Then the wind begins to groan oddly. Like I said, gray mornings mean strong winds, but this is different. Very low, almost roaring and sustained. It doesn't let up. The hairs on my arms stand up. This goes on for about a minute as I listen, gather my nerves and look out the window, but the chimes go back to clattering normally. The wind settles down. It's very sudden. My backyard faces a large field that ends at a wooden gate. On the other side of the gate are lots of trees. clusters of them dotting the landscape and ending at a large forest on the right. I see movement from one of the clusters of trees. The movement is drastic enough to notice it at that distance, like giant hands are parting the tops of the trees, bending them. Then the trees snap back into their normal position and I see something that I can't believe. Looks like a large mound of dirt and grass and branches walking like a man. It moves from one cluster of trees to another, making its way towards the forest. It stops at one of these groups of trees and I see the same thing as before. The tops of those trees part. It's as if the thing is playing peekaboo with me. I see the creature thing one more time as it moves from that group of trees, through an open space, and into the large forest. As it walks, it raises its head, and instantly the wind groans loudly, exactly like it did earlier. Then the thing disappears into the forest. The sun comes out soon afterwards.
Can you draw it?
I'm a terrible artist. I'll give it a shot, though. Just gotta make lunch and then eat. Shit drawing. Basically, it looked like a ghillie suit, I guess, only I'm exaggerating the limbs here because it made it easier for me to draw it. It shuffled more than walked, but it had this swinging motion like a person on two legs. You couldn't make out definitive arms, and there were about 2 feet long thin branches sticking out of it everywhere. The trees out there are these tall oaks, which makes the thing about 10 feet, estimation.
Could it have been someone in a ghillie suit?
Well, that's the first thing that crossed my mind, but if it were, they'd be easily 10 feet tall. I'm estimating the tree's height, but it's 12 feet minimum. Those things get tall, plus it made that strange wind sound.
I heard this from a guy I played snooker with. I don't know if he was serious or just messing with me, but I figure you guys might like it, maybe. Some time ago I went fishing near Innawoods. The place is in northern Canada. Pretty cold and remote, just the way I like it. Was there for about 2 weeks or so. Everything was going great, planning on staying about 3 or 4 more weeks at least. But then during one night, I saw something that made me go home in a hurry. It was dark and stormy, really making the little cabin moan and crack. It was so loud it woke me up, so I decided to make some tea and have myself a smoke before heading back to bed. As I took my mug of mint tea and headed to the window, I tried to relax and just watch the storm outside. I was looking at the trees waving in the wind. Kinda hard to make anything out. The moon was covered by clouds and no streetlights to speak of. If you're a city person and you never went out of the city, somewhere wild, you don't know the kind of dark I am talking about. Pitch dark, and what little light comes through the clouds seems to taunt and deceive you more than help. But I couldn't help it. I was trying to make sense of what little I did see. I knew my imagination would deceive me, would make me afraid of the dark, but I just had to look and know what little I could. I have always been a curious man. As I looked, and as my imagination saw monsters from my nightmares hide and wait for me in the dark, I realized in terror something much worse was out there. As my eyes adjusted, I saw silhouettes of men moving between the tree branches, no doubt about it. They seemed of average height but real skinny, hard to make them out from between the moving tree branches. When I was sure of what I saw, I opened the windows. I moved as fast as I could. It must have taken me less than 10 seconds to open the window, pull down the solid pine shutters, and then close them all up again. I was moving on pure adrenaline. I didn't even look at them anymore as I struggled to close the shutters and windows in the cabin. But I still saw them, with the corner of my eye. They all stopped moving, probably when they saw me close the first shutter and window. The fire was still lit, about to go out. No electricity there. I threw more logs and gasoline on the fire as I grabbed my rifle and revolver. The shutters and doors were all solid oak and pine with iron reinforcements. They had to be to resist the weather up there. I pushed some furniture in the door just for good measure, then lit all the candles and lamps I had. Then I crouched in the safest place I could and waited. Waiting there all night, I only moved to throw more logs in the fire. Not so much for light or warmth, but so none of them could climb down through the chimney. In a few hours, the fireplace stonework was red from the heat. All night I waited. I was there many times. That cabin belonged to my uncle, and I fixed it more than once. I knew every corner and every sound it made. And that night I heard a noise I will never forget. It sounded like tree branches scraping against the cabin walls, but that never happened before. The closest tree was about 300 meters away. Yet the whole cabin sounded like it was covered in tree branches and they were all scratching violently at the walls. If you ever stayed in a wooden cabin surrounded by trees, you will know what I mean. It takes one old, deaf and drunk lumberman to sleep through a storm in such a cabin, as my uncle used to say. One small difference, that sort of noise usually follows the wind, but that's not what I heard. It was like the whole thing was not synchronized with the wind, which can never happen in normal circumstances. It was as if something was trying to create or move with the wind but failed to match its pace. I tried to figure this one out, but I could never do so. I was too scared to go out and check what that sound was. I was as silent as a mouse and ready for whatever would try to come in. Fortunately, nothing came in, and come morning the noises stopped. The storm subsided and I left near early morning as fast and as cautiously as I could. Didn't bother to check around the house. Just got most of my gear and headed out with a rifle in hand. Came there with my dirt bike and of course I had it in the cabin with me. No idea what would have happened if it was outside, because I was too far to make it back to Enadai before nighttime on foot. Probably days on foot considering the weather. I took a look at my cabin as I was speeding away. There were footprints all over the place, but most were covered or it looked like someone tried to cover them. Even the roof had footprints. So many footprints, yet not a single person called out. If this was someone's idea of a prank, then they succeed. That was the general idea I left with that day. But in town, I heard people talking, whispering. Some spoke with me, some said nothing. I wasn't the only one to see those people, if that's what they were. I wouldn't have told anyone about this if not for something that happened 3 days ago, and more than a year after that night. My uncle finally got some free time and headed over there even though I told him not to. He thought I was joking or dreaming. By this time, so did I even do, I wouldn't have gone back there for anything. He called me and said I was right, then asked if I could come pick him up at the airport. I went to the airport to pick him up and then he told me what happened there. It still sends chills down my spine remembering the story. My uncle is a hard man, not much scares him, but he was scared. The first time I saw him scared. He told me he reached the cabin. The snow had melted and he saw scratch marks all over the walls. As he went closer to see, he noticed the door was broken, splintered, as if something ripped it apart. The shutters and windows were still closed, so it was pitch black inside. He wanted to go in, but he was scared. He felt something was watching him from inside. He went closer and closer till he heard a voice. He got scared and ran away as the voice got louder and louder. It just said, "Come in," over and over again in a whisper, but so loud he said his ears hurt hours after. He went there with his car, and since he arrived midday, he was still on the road as it got dark. And he swore he could still hear that "come in" from the back coming closer and closer, even though he was driving pretty fast. He said he was lucky the motel had a group of truckers staying there. He was with them all night long talking and drinking. He said he wouldn't have liked to spend the night alone after that. We are both fine now, but we still dream about it. And in our dreams they always get closer. We try to run, but they always get closer and louder. The other night I even heard their voices, but they didn't say, "Come in" anymore. I heard them say, "Coming in."
All right, Greentext time. Be on spring holidays, not in the US. I decided to go hunting since I finally got the license. Super excited, leave the house early in the morning. Marvel of Slav engineering, reliable and accurate weapon. Spend the morning walking through the woods, the snow is melting and the forest is full of sounds, branches cracking, puddles of water everywhere. Midday, still no luck. Decide to take a break and afterward to walk toward a ridge between two steep rocky cliffs. Place is remote. Even glorious Slav technology of all steel 4x4 cannot help to get there. Still early spring, night comes early. Want to be done before 6 p.m., so I don't have to drag a prey in the night through the woods. The afternoon goes by, still unlucky. Getting pretty pissed with the situation, wanted to hunt a deer, but now I'll settle with anything. Spot a buck down the ridge, looking for things to eat after winter, oblivious to me being 30 meters away. I'm on top of one, the side of the ridge, crouch and slowly get to the edge to be atop the buck. Get ready for the shot, aim for the head. Head is like in the famous GIF, total mess. Wanted a clean kill, what I have done. GIF. Still on the edge of the ridge, cannot get to it directly. Don't want to hike down it in the melting snow and through branches and thorns. Buck is very dead, not going to move anyway. Walk towards a passage, the sun is going down, but at least I got something. Get to where I was, some 20 feet under my shooting position. Was expecting to see the buck from further away. Get closer and closer, cannot find anything but a pool of blood and nearly frozen buck piss, guts, and piece of brain. Shit is a Tarantino scene, but the freaking corpse is gone. Pull knife, getting ready to skin the zombie buck on the spot when I'll find it. Where the fuck is that thing? Suddenly, a big chunk of snow falls from a pine tree 20 yards in front of me, making a big noise. Nope. Conflicted between getting that meat or noping out of there. Make some steps towards the moving tree. Another one starts to move some yards away. Something is dragging my prey without my consent, too afraid to ask for retrieval. Put knife back into my belt, take rifle into hands, slowly back away, then run to the nearest track. Never went back to this forest. Wish my sniper skills were used to kill the evil beast roaming the woods. Might go for a holy crusade some days.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check the Odyssey and Rumble pages for separate archives of previous broadcasts.